put on for my soldiers, dog, they had to swear me in. Young, humble motherfucker, but my hustle arrogant. Got it all off the muscle like I'm damn Bilzerian. Make this trap great again. I'm a proud American. I'm a proud American. I'm a proud American. Boy, salute me when you see me. I'm a proud American. I'm a proud American. I'm a proud American. No surrender, no retreat.
Welcome back to Life, Liberty, and Real Talk. I'm your host, Luke, and today we got a good show from you. We are going to actually switch it up a little bit and talk about country music. I got a nice guest today. He has a podcast called Hippies and Cowboys podcast, talking about all your non-mainstream country, the real, true country that is still left here in America. His name's Michael Hart. Mike, how you doing today?
What's up, Luke? I'm honored to be on your podcast here. I'm doing good. I'm a little hungover from darts last night. And continued our drinking. Yeah, so as you were saying, I'm the host of Hippies and Cowboys podcast, #1 country music podcast. If Keekers and Ferg happen to be listening, they are our podcast rivals. So they went and named their show the #1 podcast show. So now I have to plug that ours is in fact #1 every time we get the chance. But our show's it's a niche. We take the niche genre side of the country music world with like kind of the artists that most people don't know about, but we feel should. So the more common people that we talk about, or like at the top of our genre, would be like Tyler Childers or Sturgill Simpson, Colter Wall, those kind of names. And then it goes down to really small artists with only a couple hundred followers, but are, I feel, just as good. So we kind of give them a platform and a push and share their music to our followers, and that's what we're about. A lot of people call it Americana. Some people call it red dirt, a mix of both, Texas country, but I just like to call it good music or country music. And we also don't like most of what Nashville puts out on the mainstream, which is kind of how it started. It's like, fuck you, Nashville. But
no, I'm in your same school of thought on that, but I in talking to you here in the last couple of days, our two worlds have kind of collided. Politics has kind of snuck its way into the Americana or red dirt scene, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Just, something fresh, something new. Don't have to bore you with my monotonous cancel culture and war on masculinity speech.
Although it is intertwined.
Yeah. But today I'm going to get off my soapbox and just chat with Mike about how politics have kind of interwoven in this newer genre and resurgence of real country here. So why don't you start us off and talk a little bit about some of the things you've been noticing in the industry?
Yeah, so, politics and country music has always been super interesting. Like, the mainstream side, a lot of people think of country music as like the Confederate flag flying, like rebel, like conservative, Republican kind of ideals behind it. And a lot of the songs, especially from the early 2000s, a lot of patriotism, and then there's definitely references to, like the Second Amendment, and so there's this idea that country music is highly conservative, and that's still decently the case, especially in the mainstream. That's what they like to push. But in our genre, especially in Americana, it's pretty liberal, really. And Nashville is actually a pretty liberal city, especially East Nashville, which is where a lot of the journalists come from. And so it's getting tense, I guess, on both sides of things. Remember back with the Dixie Chicks when they canceled. Talk about cancel culture. Like, Republicans try to cancel the Dixie Chicks for being liberal. Remember that shit? I
remember that.
And I guess I can't even call them the Dixie Chicks now. They're just the Chicks because they canceled the Dixie. But that's fucking real. Did you know that?
Yeah. No, I remember that.
So I guess the Chicks, when they got canceled for being liberal, but I guess now in our side of the things, I mean, this is actually refreshing because we don't talk about politics on our show, and we tell that to all of our guests. Like, we have all these artists come on, and like the last one we had, Brent Cobb. If you know Brent Cobb, he sings a song called Soapbox, so now it's stuck in my head that now that Luke said that word. But so where is I going?
Brent Cobb and his Soapbox.
Brent Cobb and Soapbox. Oh, we tell the artists. We tell the artists that we don't talk politics, and most of them are like, "Oh, thank God," and some of them are like, "Well, their music might be political," and it's like inherently we're going to talk about politics, but we keep it to a minimum. So here I'm going to do some ranting and kind of get everything off my chest from what I've been experiencing.
Please do, because you don't use your platform for this, so use mine.
Exactly. That's why I'm glad to be here. So I guess what's happening right now, the big story is there's these journalists, Marissa Moss and her like whole gang of people. It's a fucking gang, a mob of journalists.
Marissa, if you're listening to this,
she's not.
Go ahead and cancel me. I don't care.
Yeah. Marissa, if you're listening to this, I'm the host on Keekers and Ferg, so cancel that. Anyway, so they pretty much they look and pick apart artists for anything that they could possibly find offensive. Like the biggest, when I first discovered Marissa, it was Sturgill Simpson, who is liberal. He gave a speech and like gave praise to Sean King, who says many things that I disagree with, but basically he's like, Sean King went to his high school in Kentucky and is like, he's using his platform to speak out for minorities. Like, that's really cool. And in Sturgill doing this, he talked about how Sean King was very well spoken and articulate. And then Marissa puts out this huge article for Rolling fucking Stone and says, oh, how dare he call him, it's so offensive that he would call a black man articulate. That assumes that black people aren't articulate. So the fact that he had to say that is racist. And it's like, dude, this dude just like took time out of his concert that was like at the Grand Ole Opry to give praise to this guy and what he's done for the Black Lives Matter movement. And you're going to put out an article in Rolling Stone calling him racist because he called the guy articulate. Like, her thinking that thought process to me is racist. That came in her mind, but it's just like the little things, and it's been, and ever since she's just picked these journalists, they pick out little things from artists, and they don't give a shit about the music at all. I don't think they even like the music. They just look for things to be mad about, and I am sick of it, and it's really toxic in the community right now. But I don't know. Have you seen any of that?
I actually saw that article that you're talking about, but I haven't noticed much other. I don't read the Rolling Stone very often, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, me neither.
But you talk to the vast majority of the artists in that industry, in that genre. What are have you talked to any of them about their opinions on stuff like that? And is there kind of like a consensus, regardless of the political side that the artist is on? Do they just all hate it and think it's wrong and think they should focus on the music? Do some of them like it? Obviously, the ones that haven't been called out, but like, what are some of their thoughts on it?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and yes, it does come up with artists. We don't push it to come up because we don't know their feelings on it. We have our own feelings on it, and I get the vibe that most people do agree. But usually when we bring up the political thing, like, hey, we don't talk politics, then sometimes the artist, like, will play a song in the middle, so we'll like get to chat for a few minutes and off the air, and that's what they'll bring it back up and talk about kind of their disagreements with how these journalists function and how a lot of the artists in the industry function. You know, the Jason Isbells of the world, if you know Jason Isbell, if you know the song Cover Me Up that Morgan Wallen covered, that would be a good place to start with Jason Isbell's music. But he's very verbally attacking on social media about politics. He's liberal, and he wants everybody to know it. And if you disagree with him, you are wrong, and he shoves it down your throat constantly. And a lot of the artists fucking hate that. And like that Brent Cobb's new album, Keep 'Em on Their Toes, it's all about kind of like, get off your soapbox, Shut Up and Sing. Like his whole album is just like, this is not helpful to anybody to be like, fuck you if you disagree with me. And there's a whole mob of these artists that are like that, and a lot of these artists disagree. So a few artists have expressed their dismay with it. Zephaniah O'Hara was a really good one that we talked for like 3 hours after the show about the politics in the industry. But yeah, they for the most part, I think they're on the same page. But then some artists are not, that we have on, and the really liberal ones, they agree. They agree with the Marissa Mosses. They agree with the Jason Isbells. If you disagree with them, you're wrong, and that you have to tread very lightly when you have a guest like that on. And it's scary to have them on, and it's scary knowing that they're following you in your every move, because you see what they do to some of these other people that disagree with them, or they disagree with, and they attack them, and they have the liberal mentality where if you have different opinions than them, you are a misogynist, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, like just automatically if you would disagree with anything that they say.
Oh, that happened to me. On one of my past episodes, I think it was episode 3 maybe, we were talking about your identity, and kind of, I had one of my old Young Life kids, a black kid named Quincy, on that show, and we were talking about just how detrimental it is for the black community to just constantly hear every day that they're oppressed, that they're lower on the totem pole than everybody else. And I didn't even say, oh, I think it's true, I think it's not true. We were simply just talking about how detrimental it is for the news to just be constantly running that all day, every day. And I got slandered for it by quite a few people, including a group of women that I went to high school with who have disliked me ever since 2016. But what was funny, and what I go back to, like, on cancel culture itself, is in them, it was all over their social media too. One of them went on like a 15-minute Snapchat rant about why I was a racist, even though I was talking with a black kid on the show, and we agreed on some stuff, disagreed on some stuff, but we were having a very good discussion, and a discussion that frankly needed to happen and needs to happen in all society. But she roasted me for like 10 minutes on her Snap story, and my view count all of a sudden goes blip, 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 blip. And more people on her Snapchat start tuning in. So, I mean, cancel me all you want, because all it does is give me more views. But it's ridiculous in my mind, and this plays on my last episode on cancel culture as well, but just the fact that no matter what you do 10 years ago, now, whatever, if you say something 10 years ago that isn't socially acceptable today, but was 10 years ago, and you get canceled for it today, that could end your career. And I mean, I'm sure that's something that you're worrying about, not necessarily the 10 years ago thing, but like treading lightly and talking to these various artists, because that Marissa gal and her
and I feel bad. I'm
cronies.
I'm calling her out, but there are many others that deserve to be called out too. It's just the first name that came to mind, and she's kind of the ringleader. But
yeah, but I mean, you're starting to pick up enough momentum with this that it could potentially become a career for you in the near future. And like, you're gonna have to be treading so lightly and find that line, that balance between the different various political views of your artists that you're talking to, and some of them are going to want to use your platform to spew politics. Some of them are going to be glad that you don't talk about it. I guess, how are you kind of treading that line carefully and trying to not upset anybody?
I guess our number one way of doing that is in that line, hey, we don't talk politics on our show. But you definitely have to, I mean, with any guest you have on, you're going to do research, not just into their music, but into what they're putting out on social media. A, it's going to give you some talking points, and B, you're going to know if, hey, how lightly do I need to tread here? Because you'll know pretty quick from looking through their social media if they're the ones that are shoving stuff down your throat all the time that you really have to watch out for, you'll know right away looking through their Twitter. And so we have a pretty good gauge to start with. But it's pretty terrifying when you get a guest like that on, because if they try to cancel you in our industry, it's not like we were talking about Chick-fil-A before this, where, for every one person that says, I'm not shopping, I'm not going to Chick-fil-A anymore because they're against gays. For every one person that does that and then they make a big post about it on Facebook, well, there's probably a few people that see that post and see the Chick-fil-A logo and like, okay, I'm kind of hungry for chicken now. Like, it doesn't work like that.
I need to go get some Chick-fil-A sauce.
Right. So, like, probably doesn't hurt them too bad to have that one person rant about it, because that's free advertising. But for us, yeah, you can get free advertising and listeners. If somebody goes on and is like, fuck these guys, cancel these guys, like, yeah, we'll get some listens out of it, I'm sure. But it's really harmful, and you'll never book some of these guests, because they're, like, especially female guests. It's hard enough for us as two male co-hosts to book female guests already, and it's something we caught heat for in the beginning of our show. Is like, you guys don't have enough female guests. What's up with that? And it's like, it's not because we're not trying. They're not coming on. They're hesitant, and you have to build kind of a reputation when you're starting a podcast of credibility and trust. And if you're trying to get a girl on, they look through and there's not any other girls on there, or few girls on there, well, then that might be a red flag. So then it's kind of hard to get that start. Like, okay, it's safe for you to come on. But we definitely got shit for not having enough girls and guests on, and it's really just, we had to build our credibility first for some of these artists. But I guess if they start canceling us, yeah, we're not going to get the girls. We're not going to get any of these liberal artists that I love the music. I can disagree with Jason Isbell's politics all I want, and I think that's fine. But I'm never going to stop listening to him, because I think he's the greatest songwriter. And that's one thing that I think on the conservative side of our industry, a lot of people are like, most people are like, yeah, I disagree with his music or his politics, but I love his music, and that's not going to change. I'm not going to stop listening to one of my favorite artists because I disagree with them politically. I think that's stupid, narrow-minded, and some people do that. Tyler Childers came out with something, Black Lives Matter, and people are like, fuck him. It's like, really? Like, he was your number one listener on Spotify, and now you're saying fuck him because he said something political? Like, I think that's arrogant, that's stupid, but you're going to miss out on some good music. But it's definitely something to fear for us if they came after us for something like that. And it's really, you don't have to say anything too bad. Like, all you have to say, if I came out on social media and I was like, I'm a conservative, I'm not even a Republican, but I'm a conservative, or I disagree with some of these liberal values, these people, they're fucking pests, man. They'll slap these sexist and racist and homophobic things on you just automatically because you disagree with them, and it's fucking insane. And it's something that we fear every day. And we do have a nice community in the country music scene of conservatives that we have like a safe place where we just kind of chat and talk about this, like how, like Saving Country Music, Kyle Kronios, he's getting hit hard right now, and he didn't really do anything, but they're trying to cancel him, and so like something like this happens, and we can talk about it, be like, how do we avoid this happening to us? So we do have kind of a nice community of dudes that we can talk about this with and stay safe together, kind of thing. Stay safe from the liberals.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned something a little before, like a couple minutes ago, that I think would be good to hit on, because not only do we talk politics on the show, but also personal, professional development, business type stuff. So when you started out just with a Twitter account that was, just for fun, and you wanted to bring light to this form of country music that you and I consider real country, but that most people in the mainstream don't really know about.
Right.
Started to take hold. You kind of took off. You amassed a pretty large following. Started a podcast. That started going really well for you. Now you have your own LLC, and you guys are doing stuff. Talk a little bit more about like the business side of things, where you see yourself going, how you kind of decided to go this route, and that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think a really cool kind of development. And like we're still figuring shit out on the business side of things. Like, how do we want this to work? How do we want to monetize it? But yeah, like you said, it started with my Twitter account. It blew up. It has 16,000 followers just about now, which is good for
Real Country Revival
in Pop Country. It's currently suspended, and they won't tell me why. Maybe I did something. I don't know. I have a theory in the back of my mind that maybe I liked something political and somebody reported me, and I don't know. I have no idea why it's suspended, but hopefully it comes back soon. But basically, I had an account like that. My co-host is in Canada. He had a similar account, and one of our mutual followers was like, "Hey, you guys should start a podcast." And I was like, "I don't know dick about podcasts, but sure, let's do it." And we started this podcast a year ago Monday. So really,
congrats on the 1 year.
Thank you. It was really cool one year anniversary show. We had a bunch of guests come in and play us some songs. And Parker McCollum was our headliner. But anyways, it kind of, like I said, you had to build credibility. Getting the first guest was big. Blake Berglund, he came on the anniversary show, Canadian dude. Small artist, but good guy. And once you start building the credibility, I think the turning point for us was we had Vincent Neil Emerson on, and he is under the same management as Coulter Wall, same record label too. So then people see, when you send out a feeler email to try to get somebody on, you can send them who you've had on, and if they see a familiar name, well, they're more likely to come on. So building that traction, and then we had the fan base kind of to start, which was nice. Like, a lot of people liked us just from Twitter, so we had a good base of listeners to start. But over the year, our products got better, our guests have got better, and just quality has gotten better, and our views are up pretty high. But we're kind of thinking now, it's like, well, what else do we want to do with this? We probably want it to be more than a podcast. Nothing against podcasts, Luke, but we still want to do the podcast, but we want to make videos, do video sessions. We went down to Lexington, shot some videos, and we got merchandise. We hired a graphic designer for our logos and things to go on merch, and now it's like, well, all this stuff costs money. How do we monetize it? Merch helps. We started a Patreon. If you guys end up looking up my podcast and liking it, you can subscribe to our Patreon. We throw on all those rants in the middle there that I was talking about, where it's technically off air. We throw those on Patreon.
It's practically an OnlyFans for a business.
Exactly. It's our little OnlyFans.
Don't worry, you won't see nude photos of Mike unless
you ask for it.
You ask for them, and they'll cost you though.
That's only the $20 tier that gets those. But I got some pretty high quality ones out there, so don't be shy to ask. But yeah, we're trying to raise these funds now, and I guess sponsors are a big one, but sponsors are a bitch to land. So we hired a few interns. It's like, well, we don't have the money to pay interns. I'm a teacher, and my co-host plows snow in Canada, because I think that's what everybody in Canada does.
Well, luckily in Canada you can do that more year-round than you can here.
Right. But so we can't pay our interns, so we came up with this pretty good model where it's like, okay, just take 3 people that like our show, know what we're about, and we just put out a feeler. We're like, hey, we want to hire interns. And we got full resumes sent to us and shit, like 50, 60 of them. But we just picked out a few that we liked, and we can't pay you, but if you book us, say $1,000 sponsorship for 4 weeks, we'll give you $100 of it. So that's kind of some incentive for them to find sponsors, because they're going to get some cash out of it. Then eventually, we can start paying them more, but for now, that's kind of where we're at, and it's like they want to do it because they want to help us, because they like our product and they like what we're about. So they just want to be a part of it. So it's like, great, you can help us in this way, and we can pay you a little bit out of it, depending on how much you get us for sponsors. So it works out kind of nice. Nobody's really gone out and like tried to get us like a dildo sponsorship or KY jellies, you know. So they've kept it pretty reasonable with like Western wear and apparel and stuff like that. So I'm grateful for that. I was just waiting for like,
I'm gonna go out and find you a dildo sponsorship next week.
Fucking do it, dude. I think that'd be hilarious, you know? Like, one of our sponsors was Twisted Bitch Cattle Company, and I just wanted to say that on air. Like, it's a fun one to say on air, and they're a cattle company, but they have like Western wear and stuff, and they came out with a condom line too. It's called the Naughty Bitch condoms with their logo on it. So the second time that they sponsored us, it was right when that condom thing came out. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm putting this in the show. So,
well, next week I'm going to be on the phone with adamandeve.com and
There you
try
go.
and get you guys some various intimate sponsors.
yeah, you know, Valentine's Day's coming up. So the world's our moisture on that one. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of where we're at on the business side of things. We want to get into like hosting concerts and festivals, which obviously takes some startup money to do, but it'd be super cool. We have all these connections with guests, and it's like, well, what kind of shit can we create? How can we get new ears to these people? And how can we have fun with it? Making art with the people that we like to listen to, you know? Like, I think it's just super cool that I get to talk to these guys, like, and girls, my favorite artists. Like, that's neat. But we can do a lot more. So we're kind of figuring out what all can we do with this backing that we have and the platform and the connections. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunities. Like I said, the world is our moisture.
So when you were first starting your original Twitter account, End Pop Country, for the people out there who are maybe, you know, trying to become social media influencers for whatever reason, was that your goal going into it? How did you start kind of attempting to amass a following? Did it just kind of happen randomly? Was that the plan all along? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So my Twitter handle has not changed. It started with End Pop Country because when I discovered this world of country music that we talked about, not many people know about, I was like, this is fucking an outrage. You know, like how is this being, like, the product that's on the radio, how is that what everybody's getting fed and all this good music's out there? Like, I was pissed. So I made the account to make fun of mainstream country, like, and pop country. And basically that was my handle, and it said my name was "Is This Country Music?" with the question mark, and then I go to like Thomas Rhett's posts and be like, no. Like, you find their videos and I just comment no, and like people thought that was pretty funny, and I started getting followers just off of that, like stupid shit, and making like dumb little memes, making fun of pop country. And I think once I got a couple hundred followers off of that, I was like, well, this really isn't doing much to help the actual artists that I like. So then I kind of slowly started to switch into more promoting of the artists that I like, and that you know, it does a lot more for the artists, and people like it better. You know, you like to see happy stuff on your news feed and discover and learn new things. So once I started doing that, then I really started to get a following, posting videos and more positive stuff. And there's a saying out there, I don't know what it is, where you get farther from posting the good stuff versus the hate. And I still post the hate, you know, like, it's still funny. Like, I'll put it out, but it's maybe one out of every, I don't know, 40 tweets versus most of them. And then I'll still get people that are like, you bitch too much, I'm not following you anymore. And it's like, great, see ya. Like, now I only have 15,941 followers. Like, fuck you. Like, see ya. But I guess, yeah, I think the more love versus hate is kind of how it built, and a lot of content, good content, and it's something where, yeah, you go through phases of, I like to put, you know, you can put a bunch out this week and have a bunch of engagements, and then like 1 week you're not feeling it and it's less, and like, that's fine. You might lose a couple followers if you're not posting it like a bunch daily, but definitely goes through waves, and you just have to roll with it, I think. And yeah, when you're feeling good, you're feeling creative, you can come up with some witty things and just pump out the content and get a bunch of followers. But I think, yeah, constant management of it is big, and constantly putting stuff out and engaging, and the followers. Yeah.
So your whole goal with this whole kind of thing you're pushing is to bring light on this genre of country that's not mainstream.
Right.
And you've been doing it for a while now. I guess, where do you see it going in terms of just telling more people about this genre and industry? Because, I mean, I know when I share this music with my friends, they're like, oh, I've never heard these guys before. They're awesome. Like, wow, that's more of your country from back in the day, and they're bringing it back, but they're our age, and there's just a resurgence of it. And then they're texting me every day, what's 5 more artists I can listen to? What's 5 more artists I can listen to? And I'm just rattling them off on my phone. So that obviously works. But, like, with your platform, how do you see it going in the future to try and bring more light onto the industry?
So all the ways I've said, the videos, concerts, festivals, in addition to the podcast, are good. I find a lot of music on YouTube, so I think videos are helpful. But I guess my goal with it would be, the reason why I started that first account was because I was pissed off on what's on the mainstream country. So I would love to see these artists being represented in the mainstream, whether it's the CMAs or on the mainstream radio, like some recognition to these artists that, in my opinion, are far superior artists to what is being put out on.
Well, a lot of these
mainstream
artists actually write the songs for the mainstream.
Yeah, Brent Cobb, his name's come up a lot. He writes a lot of Luke Bryan shit and like a lot of Little Big Town shit. Like, yeah,
that's
they
another
write.
thing.
Yeah, the mainstream artists, they don't write their own fucking songs, and if they do, they're in a room of 10 people. It's like, what do you do outside of fucking twerk on stage? Like, so what I want to see is, I want these artists being represented on the mainstream, and I don't think that's going to happen. I'd love, in a fantasy world, to be like, all right, get the Thomas Rhetts and the Florida Georgia Rhodes and the Dan and Shays out of the fucking mainstream and put in the Tyler Childers and the Jesse Daniels and the Coulter Walls. But and I think a more reasonable alternative would to have, like what Texas radio currently does, is they have like the mainstream radio station, and they also have the radio stations that will play the Texas country, the real stuff. And I think a nationwide model of that, where there's a second option of listening, because right now there's no second option. You get what Nashville wants you to get, and what they want you to get is people singing about how country they are. It's not country music. It's just they need to tell you how country they are to prove that they're country, and it's a bad model. And what we need is an option. We need an option where you can turn on the radio and see what else is out there on the mainstream, because I don't know how long radio will last with streaming platforms coming up like Spotify, and I think Spotify is a great way for people to discover artists. But the mainstream clearly has a big impact on our culture and what people do. So I would like to see a second option for people. Also, Spotify kind of fucking sucks because they don't pay artists dick, but they are a good way of discovering new people, I guess.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Spotify because I love it as a consumer, because I'm able to, look up any song at any given time and listen to it for one low flat rate. But at the same time, you're right, they don't pay the artists hardly anything, and they're not making what they used to make off their records or their albums. And with people not being able to tour right now, they're not making any money off that either.
Right.
So yeah, but no, that's how I discovered this genre, apart from you, even though we were friends when I did discover it, just Spotify.
Yeah.
So
it's good at, you discover one artist, you listen to him a bunch, and then it'll feed you somebody similar. So I think that's very helpful. But yeah, they don't pay dick. But And basically that's what the CEO says. He's like, well, a lot of people are discovering you because of us, and that's true. But it's like, yeah, where are artists supposed to make their money right now, especially the little guys, and not even just the artists, but like think of, like these guys have full bands. Like you're not paying one person. Like what does the drummer do? What does the bass player do right now when they're not touring? Like fuck, I don't know. Probably have to get a new job, and there's not a lot of new jobs out there right now because the liberals shut down our economy.
Yeah, you had to sneak that one in there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on today. Is there anything else you want to say as we close here?
I don't know. I guess if aside from the politics, if you are kind of in the same boat as me, where you're thinking, yeah, maybe what's on the mainstream kind of does suck, and it's pop more than country. Like, what is he talking about? There's other music out there that's real. Like, I think a lot of times when I say that, people are like, "Whoa, it's got to sound like 80s. It's got to sound like Hank Sr. or Waylon Jennings in order for it to be country." That's not true. There's a lot of sounds, a lot of styles out there that are true, authentic, and if this interests you at all, go to my Twitter at Hippies Cowboys and see our past guests, or just go to our podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and just scroll through those guests and listen to them, because we play their songs on our shows. So listen to what they sound like and see for yourself, I guess, would be my final thoughts.
Well, thanks, Mike. Go follow the Hippies and Cowboys podcast. Follow the Twitter account at Hippies Cowboys. Follow at In Pop Country, even though it's disbanded right now. And if you like this show, go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook at Life Liberty RT. Hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas, not a Happy Holidays, unless you don't celebrate Christmas. Then have a happy whatever holiday you celebrate. But I'm going to say Merry Christmas because I celebrate Christmas, and I'm tired of that being offensive. And I'll leave you with that, and excited to bring you some good content in the new year.
I'll never forget the man who died just to get that right to me. Staying tall for my brave ones, Republican since day one. I caught the P with my Trump check. You Democrat, I can't fuck with that. Put on for my soldiers, dog, they had to swear me in. Young, humble motherfucker, but my hustle arrogant. Got it all off the muscle like I'm damn Bilzerian.